I'm Dave First. It's great to be joined by Rob Edwards, who's Chief Operating Officer here at Andretti Global, getting ready for the holidays. But certainly, Rob has a vast ton of racing experience. We're going to try to get into all of that here over the next several minutes. Thanks for doing this, by the way.
My pleasure.
How's your Christmas shopping going? All right?
I'm waiting till Christmas Eve.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay. It sounds like a very guy answer. Good job. American born,
Yep.
raised in the UK. How has that affected your background growing up, and now here you are in racing, obviously?
You're right. I think your background, right, determines who you are and how you operate. And I think probably picked up some good things from both places, and hopefully put those pieces together right. I mean, I think I always say the biggest thing that's helped me in racing is I grew up working on a farm in England, and I think that was pretty good background for me in racing.
Why do you say that?
Because I think you work on a farm. You got an objective, but there's also things you can't control. And you have to work around those things you can't control to still get to the end objective. And that's a bit like racing, right? There's things you can control and things you can't, but the objective's very clear. So I'd say, I always view it as a good start.
All right, let me back up. Why did you want to get into racing?
I like designing things. So I originally got involved in racing as a designer, and I didn't like the idea of if I went to work for a production car company is I might design something and 5 years later it might finally see the light of day. And so what really appealed to me about racing was what I would call the reward cycle.
Yeah.
It's the short reward cycle,
Yeah.
right? I mean, back then we would design a car and that car would see the track 6 months later, or as I got more into racing, you'd go to the racetrack, you'd have a problem or a challenge, and you have to solve it by the next race.
Yeah.
And so I think it was that creativity, that reward cycle that really appealed to me. And went to some racing when I was young, tried go-karting a little bit. I decided that self-preservation for me was going to overcome the, sort of throwing it into the corner. So I sort of stepped back from driving and got into the engineering and design side and on from there.
One of your first jobs with a British race team, right?
So my first job was with a company called Tiga, T-I-G-A in the UK. Howden Ganley and Tim Schenken, a couple of ex-F Formula One drivers.
Guys, yeah.
Started a company that was very successful in Formula Ford, sports car, and that sort of thing. And it was a great place to start. Small company, 2 dozen people, and you got to do everything, right? And very early on, Howden had to go off on a trip and left me a stack of drawings to work through and just said, haven't done when I come back.
Yeah.
So straight in the deep end.
There you go. Grab a cup of coffee and dig right into it. Educationally wise, engineering degree overseas, and then got a Master of Business at Indiana University, just down the road.
Kelly School of Business.
Kelly School of Business. So I mean, what a background that you've taken and then continued to grow, and we'll get into IndyCar and all that, but it's huge, right, for you?
I think racing continues to change and evolve, and I think so we have to continue to change and evolve as well. And my background was obviously engineering, and that got me the design side and the race engineering side and so on. And then Derek Walker had kind of shifted me into more of the management side and so on. And and then Alex Tagliani gave me the opportunity to start what was Fast that became Smith and McLaren now. And so doing the MBA sort of helped to, there's some things I'm sort of doing intuitively, but I should probably have a bit more background into some of these things I'm doing, like setting up companies and managing companies. And so, between the two, at least try and keep me somewhat on the straight and narrow.
So from overseas, how did you get to IndyCar? Through Derek Walker?
No, so I designed a Sports 2000 car for Tiger that was bought by Mike Gouet of Essex Racing in Atlanta. And he sort of said, well, you've designed this car and we're buying the rights to produce this car. Do you want to come to the States and see the project through? And I was like, stay in England, look at Formula One or whatever, or, come to the States. And I figured if I didn't like the States, I could always go back to England and do Formula One. And in the end, I just never found my way back, and I stayed over here. But Mike was the guy that got me over here, and was a great opportunity.
And some 16 years at Walker Racing, is that correct?
16 years with Derek, yeah.
Pretty much did everything there with that team, right?
Yes.
How did that formulate kind of who you are? And I mean, it's good whenever you work for a race team or any job, if you've got an experience in a little bit of everything, there's a respect factor, there's just knowledge factor, and as you continue to grow, experience is your best teacher, right?
I think so, and I think Derek was great as someone to learn from.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of experience, very well respected in the industry, and he gave me a lot of freedom, but also made sure I didn't get too far off track.
Yeah.
And he was, as a Scotsman, he made sure that we understood how to stretch a budget, and make sure we're maximizing whatever we had to work with. And I think. When I look at the teams I've been with since, it's always been, okay, maybe we've had a little more money to spend, but you have to spend the money in the right place. I think you and I can both think of race teams that had a lot of things they needed and didn't have budget. But you can also think a lot of race teams had a lot of money and just blew it, right? And didn't really get the success. And so of all the things that I feel, Derek taught me, and there are many, it was that, okay, make sure that we're spending the money in the right place to be successful.
Kind of fast forwarding through your career, but this is like a life and times of Rob Edwards here, by the way. But obviously went in the Indy 500 pole with Tagliani in 2011, and then this opportunity came up not that long ago with Michael's team, now Andretti Global. Why make the change for you? What was it about this team that attracted you?
So I think, very grateful for everything that happened, fast transitioning to Sam buying the team and so on. But I think that was always going to be an IndyCar team. And I think when JF tried to call me, and eventually I called him back because I don't answer numbers I don't recognize, and I didn't recognize the number.
Good point, Let it go to voicemail.
Let it go to voicemail, we'll answer. But when I come back and the opportunity was there, it was like, Andretti was a motorsports, and still is, right, a motorsports company. And at the time, IndyCar, IndyNext, Global Rallycross, Formula E, there was just a lot other types of racing to get involved in, and that was what was appealing, the opportunity to continue to grow, right? Just like, I think, particularly as someone with an engineering background in racing, it's about solving challenges, right? How do we do this? How do we do this better, and so on? And I just felt there was a bigger environment at Andretti to tackle and to be challenged by.
What is the goal here in 2024 for this race team? Obviously, Marcus Ericsson's on board now. You got Kyle, you got Colton. It's a pretty stout driver lineup, isn't it?
Yeah, really excited about the driver lineup for sure. We're fortunate that we're able to, consolidate on those three drivers and focus on performance, competition. The goal is clearly win the Indy 500 and win the championship. And I think we've seen already that all three drivers, although they're going to compete on the racetrack, have got the message that they're all part of helping us achieve those goals. And the way in the short time that the three of them have been together, they've been working together on track, off track, in here doing pit stops with the guys. When they're testing, even if only one of them's in the car, all three of them have been at the racetrack to build those relationships and make sure that one driver's not going off in one direction, the other two have got to follow and make sure that we're cohesive in what we're doing.
To your point, we'll wrap it up with this. This is very much a race team. It's more than the NTT IndyCar series. Basically, 4 race teams-ish, 13 total teams over 4 different disciplines, let's call it. Over 150 crew members, engineers. It's a lot to keep track of.
It's a lot to keep track of, and it's only as good as the people, right? And so, it starts with Michael, JF, myself, but then we've got great managers on all of the programs. We've got great engineering, and as I say, I think going down to the 3 cars for 2024 has just sharpened that focus on to really focus on these 3 guys and making sure that we have the success that we're trying to achieve.
The countdown's on. St. Pete's going to be here before we know it.
Yep.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Have a great holiday, my friend.
Thanks.
Rob Edwards, NTT Meet the Paddock.